The conference room felt like a tomb when Stephanie slid the termination papers across the glass table. She didn't even look up from her tablet, just tapped those manicured nails against the screen like she was ordering lunch. Your security protocols are outdated, Wade. We're modernizing. My gut dropped. 25 years. I'd given this company a quarter-century of my life, built their entire network defense from the ground up when they were still operating out of that converted warehouse in Detroit. My name's Wade Carmichael. I'm 49 years old, and I've been protecting digital perimeters since before most of these executives knew what a firewall was. 20 years in the Navy taught me that when someone's shooting at you, you don't abandon your defensive position because it looks old-fashioned. I learned that lesson tracking Soviet submarines in the North Atlantic, where one mistake could cost lives. Darren Walsh leaned against the wall, arms crossed, that smug smile barely contained. He'd been gunning for me since the day he arrived 18 months ago with his MIT credentials and his AI everything solutions. The guy had never served a day in his life, never understood what it meant to build something from nothing. The Sentinel Protocol is analog thinking in a digital world. He'd said in countless meetings, modern threats require modern responses. Your cycling system is inefficient. I straightened the papers on the table until they formed perfect parallel lines. Old habit from the Navy. When everything else goes to hell, you maintain order in what you can control. Any questions? Stephanie finally looked up, eyebrow raised like she was doing me a favor by acknowledging my existence. I kept my voice steady. Just one. Who's handling threat assessment when the automated system goes offline for updates? Darren stepped forward, chest puffed out like a rooster in a henhouse. Our new AI doesn't go offline, Wade. It learns continuously. Your cycling protocols were inefficient. Real security runs 24/7 without interruption. I nodded, knowing exactly what would happen. The kid had no idea what he was dismantling. I designed the Sentinel protocol using principles learned tracking enemy subs systems that scan, analyze, then enter low-power modes to process intelligence while maintaining passive monitoring. It wasn't a bug in the system. It was strategic design based on 20 years of military experience. During those cycling periods, the system performed deep packet analysis, cross-referenced threat databases, and updated security profiles. Surface-level continuous scanning might look impressive on executive dashboards, but it missed the sophisticated attacks that took time to identify. Our network had intercepted 847 intrusion attempts last year alone, with 0 successful penetrations. But try explaining submarine warfare tactics to a guy whose biggest challenge was his college thesis. I stood, aligned my chair with the table edge. Then I wish you luck. Security walked me to my desk like I was some kind of criminal. 25 years of loyalty, and they treat you like a threat the moment they decide you're expendable. I packed methodically minus the photos of my son Austin at his engineering graduation, my Navy commendation plaque, the coffee mug from our first major defense contract back in '02. Austin had been so proud when I told him we'd won that DoD cybersecurity contract. Dad, you're protecting the country, he'd said. Kid was only 12 then, but he understood the importance. The hardest part wasn't the humiliation. It was knowing that Austin was finishing his senior year at State, and his tuition bill was coming due in 3 months. My divorce settlement with Linda had cleaned out most of my savings, and now they were cutting off my income stream just when I needed it most. But I changed no passwords. I altered no settings. I simply gathered my personal items and walked out with my head high while my former colleagues avoided eye contact like I had some contagious disease. At home in my empty apartment, I cracked open a beer and waited. The Sentinel protocol should have initiated its deep analysis cycle at midnight, pulling threat intelligence from DoD databases and cross-referencing attack vectors against known hostile entities. But they'd overridden it, forcing the system to run continuous surface scans without the strategic pauses that made it effective. I'd built redundancy into everything, including remote monitoring capabilities that Darren didn't know existed. Call it paranoia, but 20 years in the Navy teaches you to watch your back. Even from my home computer, I could see network traffic patterns, system performance metrics, and security alerts. The dashboard showed everything running green, but I knew better. Green lights don't mean safe. They just mean nothing's triggered the alarms yet. My phone lit up at 2:17 a.m., 8 missed calls, 15 text messages, all from different executives and IT staff. Wade, call immediately. Network compromised. Financial systems locked. customer database encrypted. The texts got more desperate by the minute, and I could picture the chaos in the security operations center. I took another sip of beer and watched the clock tick past 2:30. By now, every executive would be getting phone calls, every department head would be panicking, and Darren would be frantically trying to figure out what went wrong with his modern security system. The irony was thick as fog on a carrier deck. At 3:30 a.m., Darren called himself, his voice pure panic mixed with desperation. "What did you sabotage, Wade? What did you plant in the system?" "Absolutely nothing," I said, setting down my beer. "That's exactly the problem. Fix this now or we'll sue you into bankruptcy," Darren hissed through the phone. "For what? Designing systems that worked perfectly until you broke them." I leaned back in my chair, watching the network monitoring display on my home computer. Those servers were calibrated for tactical cycling, Darren. Run them at full capacity without analysis breaks, and they miss sophisticated attack patterns. It's not sabotage. It's basic cybersecurity principles applied to network architecture. This is sabotage. Check the maintenance logs. Everything's documented. You just never bothered to read the technical specifications. I could hear him breathing hard, probably pacing around the operations center like a caged animal. The system documentation is 400 pages long. Did you read it? Silence on the other end. Of course he hadn't. Guys like Darren don't read documentation. They prefer flashy presentations and buzzword solutions that look good in board meetings. "Look, I can walk you through the recovery process," I said, feeling almost sorry for him. Almost. "But you need to understand what you're dealing with. This isn't just a ransomware attack. Whoever did this had inside knowledge of your security gaps." "What do you mean, inside knowledge?" I pulled up the traffic analysis on my screen. The patterns were clear as day to anyone who knew what to look for. The attackers knew exactly which servers to hit, which databases to target, which security protocols to bypass. They didn't waste time probing for weaknesses. They went straight for the most valuable targets. 3 hours later, Stephanie called personally, her CEO composure cracking like thin ice under pressure. "Name your price, Wade. We need you here now. The board is breathing down my neck." I stood up and walked to my kitchen window, looking out at the empty parking lot of my apartment complex. Most people my age were asleep in houses they owned, next to wives who hadn't divorced them, secure in careers that valued experience over youth. Before we continue, I should mention that your attackers didn't just lock your systems. They copied your entire manufacturing database. Every proprietary design, every client specification, every DoD contract detail. The silence stretched for a full minute. I could hear her breathing, probably calculating the financial implications. "How do you know that?" "Because I'm still monitoring network traffic from my home system. The data exfiltration started 6 hours before the ransomware deployment. 23 terabytes and counting. That's not random cybercrime, Stephanie. That's industrial espionage." Another long pause. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying someone inside your company provided intelligence to make this attack possible. Someone with administrative access who knew exactly how to disable the protections I built." I arrived at headquarters 45 minutes later to find chaos that reminded me of damage control drills on the USS Michigan. The Security Operations Center looked like a DEFCON 1 alert. Technicians frantically typing while executives hovered like vultures circling roadkill. The main display showed encrypted files spreading across the network like a digital virus, each red indicator representing another compromised system. Stephanie met me at the door, her usual confidence replaced by raw desperation. Dark circles under her eyes suggested she'd been here all night. "The attackers want $50 million. They're threatening to sell our designs to competitors if we don't pay within 72 hours. They've already sold them." I walked to my old workstation, the monitors still showing the network topology I'd built over 25 years. Everything I'd constructed, piece by piece, was being systematically destroyed by someone who understood it intimately. This wasn't random. Someone provided inside intelligence, attack vectors, security gaps, system vulnerabilities. This was a coordinated strike with advanced reconnaissance. Darren stepped forward, his face flushed red like a boiled lobster. "You're implying someone here collaborated with criminals?" "I'm stating facts based on traffic analysis." I pulled up the intrusion logs, data flowing across the screen like a waterfall. "Look at these entry points. Every attack vector exploits specific vulnerabilities that were created when you disabled the cycling protocols. The attackers knew exactly when the system would be most exposed." I spent the next 2 hours documenting the attack timeline while the executives paced outside like expectant fathers. The Sentinel protocol had left breadcrumbs everywhere, trace logs of every communication, every access attempt, every data transfer. Military training had taught me to document everything, and that discipline was about to pay dividends I never imagined. As I traced the attack vectors, a pattern emerged that made my blood run cold. The attackers hadn't just exploited the security gaps Darren created. They'd been fed detailed information about our defenses, our client data, our most sensitive projects. Someone had systematically dismantled 25 years of security architecture from the inside, and they'd been planning this for months. Austin called around noon, his voice tight with concern. "Dad, I saw the news reports about Apex Manufacturing. Aren't you working there?" "Not anymore, son. They fired me yesterday." "Jesus, Dad. What are you going to do about tuition?" "I can take out more loans if don't worry about that right now," I said, watching another wave of encrypted files appear on the status board. "Things have a way of working themselves out." "Are you okay? You sound different." I smiled, thinking about the evidence I was compiling. "I'm fine, Austin." "Better than fine, actually. Your old man might have one more trick up his sleeve." After I hung up, I pulled up Darren's access logs and cross-referenced them with the attack timeline. What I found next would change everything, not just for me, but for everyone in this company. The breadcrumb trail led directly to a series of encrypted communications that had been happening for months, hidden in routine system maintenance logs. My hands moved across the keyboard like I was back on the USS Michigan, tracking enemy submarines through sonar contacts and radio intercepts. The evidence unfolded like a tactical assessment that would make my old commanding officer proud. Darren had been feeding Pierce Corporation detailed intelligence about our security protocols, our client list, our upcoming DoD contracts. The plan was elegant in its simplicity: disable the Sentinel protocol, create vulnerability windows, then coordinate a targeted attack to steal our most valuable intellectual property. Every security decision, every client acquisition, every defense contract bid had been compromised for 18 months. I compiled everything into a secure folder. The communication logs, the access records, the financial transfers from Pierce to offshore accounts linked to Darren's personal information. The evidence painted a picture of systematic betrayal that would make a Navy intelligence officer proud. This wasn't just corporate politics. This was treason against everything I'd built. When I called Stephanie into the operations center at 3 p.m., I could see the exhaustion weighing on her like full battle gear. She'd been running on coffee and adrenaline for 15 hours straight. "I've restored partial network function," I said, gesturing to the status displays showing green across critical systems. "Financial systems are back online, and customer data is secure. But we need to talk about how this happened." I laid out the evidence methodically, each piece of data building an ironclad case like a military briefing. Stephanie's face went through a spectrum of emotions as she absorbed the scope of Darren's betrayal. Disbelief, anger, then cold calculation. He's been selling us out for 18 months. Every major security decision, every client acquisition, every defense contract bid. Pierce Corporation knew our capabilities better than our own board of directors. I pulled up the financial records showing wire transfers, totaling $750,000 over the past year. This wasn't just insider trading. This was systematic corporate espionage with national security implications. She stared at the screen like she was looking at classified enemy intelligence. "What do we do now?" "We call the FBI." This crossed state lines, involved DoD contracts, and constitutes cyber terrorism. This is federal jurisdiction. The next morning, FBI agents in dark suits escorted Darren from the building in handcuffs, while news crews filmed from the parking lot. I watched from the operations center window as they loaded him into an unmarked car, thinking about all those meetings where he dismissed my outdated methods. The charges read like a cybersecurity nightmare. Corporate espionage, conspiracy to commit cyber terrorism, violation of the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, and breach of national security protocols. Agent Sarah Rodriguez, the lead investigator, interviewed me for 3 hours about the technical details of the breach. She was sharp, asked the right questions, understood the implications immediately. "Your documentation made this case possible," she said, reviewing my evidence files. "Most companies don't have this level of forensic detail." "Military training," I replied, straightening the papers on the conference table. "Document everything. Trust no one. Verify all intelligence." The board meeting that afternoon felt like a court-martial, but this time I was the prosecutor, not the defendant. Ellis Hartwell, our board chairman, listened intently as I presented the full scope of the security breach and the intelligence that prevented it from being catastrophic. "Your Sentinel protocol didn't just detect the attack," Ellis said, reviewing my technical report. "It documented the entire conspiracy while it was happening." "Military training teaches you to plan for betrayal," I replied, thinking about all those nights tracking Soviet submarines, knowing they were planning something but not knowing when they'd strike. The cycling protocols weren't just about efficiency. They were about creating audit trails that couldn't be easily erased or manipulated. A board member leaned forward, studying the financial projections I'd prepared. "What's our exposure here? Without the stolen data recovery, we were looking at $200 million in lost contracts and legal liability. With criminal prosecution, we can pursue full restitution and punitive damages." I displayed the recovery timeline on the main screen. "More importantly, we've proven our security architecture can withstand coordinated attacks by hostile entities." Ellis nodded slowly. "What would you need to prevent this from happening again?" I'd been waiting for that question. "Complete security autonomy, direct board reporting, and implementation of enhanced Sentinel protocols across all divisions. No exceptions, no overrides without board approval." 3 weeks later, I signed the contract as Chief Security Officer with an equity package worth $10 million and climbing. The position came with a team of 50 analysts, a $20 million annual budget, and direct authority over all cybersecurity decisions. No more reporting to technology directors who didn't understand the fundamentals of network defense. Austin called that evening, excitement bubbling through the phone. "Dad, I just saw the announcement on LinkedIn. Chief Security Officer, that's incredible. It's been a long road, son." I looked around my new office, 3 times larger than my old cubicle, with windows overlooking the Detroit River. "How are your finals going?" "Good. But I've been worried about tuition. I know things have been tight since the divorce." I smiled, thinking about the signing bonus sitting in my bank account. "Don't worry about tuition anymore. Your old man just got a pretty significant raise." "Really? How significant?" "Significant enough that you can focus on your engineering studies instead of worrying about money." I paused, looking at the framed photo of Austin's graduation on my new desk. "Maybe significant enough that you could consider graduate school if you want." The silence on the other end lasted so long I thought we'd been disconnected. Finally, Austin's voice came through thick with emotion. "Dad, I'm really proud of you. I know this hasn't been easy, it never is, son, but sometimes you have to trust that doing the right thing will eventually pay off." I thought about all those years building something from nothing, only to watch it nearly get destroyed by someone who didn't understand its value. Sometimes the best revenge is simply being right when everyone else is catastrophically wrong. 6 months later, I stood on the stage at the National Cybersecurity Summit in Las Vegas, accepting the Industry Excellence Award while 2,000 security professionals applauded. The recognition felt good, but the real satisfaction came from what had happened in the months leading up to this moment. Pierce Corporation collapsed under federal investigation like a house of cards in a hurricane. Their stolen data was returned under court order. Their executives faced criminal charges, and their government contracts were permanently revoked. The FBI discovered that our case was just the tip of the iceberg. Pierce had been conducting industrial espionage against 12 other companies over a 5-year period. Darren received a 7-year federal sentence and industry-wide blacklisting. His MIT credentials didn't mean much when he was wearing orange jumpsuits and explaining to cellmates why he'd sold out his own company. The judge called it a betrayal of the highest order against both corporate trust and national security. Our company not only survived, but thrived beyond anyone's expectations. We won a $200 million defense contract specifically because of our proven security architecture and our ability to detect and document sophisticated attacks. The Pentagon wanted systems that could withstand coordinated assault by hostile entities, and we'd proven ours could do exactly that. The irony wasn't lost on me. In trying to modernize beyond my capabilities, they'd created the perfect conditions for my greatest professional triumph. My outdated Sentinel protocol became the gold standard for industrial cybersecurity, licensed to Fortune 500 companies across the country for implementation fees that generated millions in additional revenue. As Chief Security Officer, I now oversee a team of 50 analysts, many of them young veterans transitioning from military service to civilian careers. There's something deeply satisfying about mentoring the next generation, sharing lessons learned from 20 years of Navy service and 25 years of corporate cybersecurity. These kids remind me of myself at their age, hungry to prove themselves, eager to build something lasting. My equity package is now worth $15 million and climbing. Austin finished his engineering degree summa cum laude and landed a position with our defense division, building the next generation of threat detection systems. He's designing innovations I never imagined, combining artificial intelligence with the fundamental principles I learned tracking submarines. The cycle continues. During the award ceremony, I thought about all the older workers who'd been pushed aside by younger management, dismissed as obsolete when they were actually irreplaceable. How many companies had lost institutional knowledge because some executive wanted to look progressive? How many proven systems had been dismantled because they didn't fit the latest technology trends? The speaking circuit has been lucrative beyond my expectations. Corporate executives pay $50,000 per engagement to hear about cybersecurity lessons learned from military service. I've addressed audiences from Detroit to Denver, sharing insights about threat assessment, documentation discipline, and the value of experience-based system design. Last month, a publisher offered me a book deal about corporate cybersecurity and insider threats. The advance alone would have covered Austin's entire college education twice over. The title they suggested was The Sentinel Protocol: How Military Principles Saved Corporate America. I like the sound of that, but the real victory isn't financial. It's professional vindication on a scale I never imagined. Industry conferences invite me as a keynote speaker. Cybersecurity journals quote my research papers. Graduate programs use my case study as an example of effective threat detection and documentation practices. 3 weeks ago, Stephanie called to inform me that our stock price had increased 45% since the security improvements were implemented. Investor confidence had soared once news of our advanced threat detection capabilities became public. Companies were literally paying premium prices to license technology that Darren had tried to replace with generic AI solutions. "Wade, I owe you an apology," she said during our quarterly security briefing. "I should have listened to you from the beginning. I straightened the quarterly reports into perfect alignment on the conference table. You listened when it mattered most." The best part came during Austin's graduation ceremony last spring. As I watched him walk across the stage in his cap and gown, he spotted me in the audience and gave me a thumbs up. Later, at the family dinner, he pulled me aside. "Dad, I want you to know that watching you handle everything this past year taught me more about integrity than any engineering class ever could." His voice was steady, mature beyond his 22 years. "You could have burned the place down when they fired you. Instead, you saved it." That night, I sat in my new house overlooking the Detroit River, thinking about the journey from that humiliating termination meeting to this moment of complete professional vindication. Sometimes the best revenge is simply being right when everyone else is catastrophically wrong. The Sentinel Protocol still runs today, protecting networks with the same tactical precision I learned in the North Atlantic. Some lessons transcend technology. Some defensive strategies never become obsolete. And when corporations abandon proven expertise for flashy alternatives, they usually learn the hard way that experience beats innovation every single time. Before I finish this story, I want to share something with you that might resonate if you've ever felt undervalued in your workplace. I've learned that documentation isn't just about covering your bases. It's about proving your worth when others can't see it. Whether you're 25 or 55, whether you're in tech or manufacturing or any other field, never let anyone convince you that your experience is obsolete. The fundamentals you've mastered over decades don't become worthless because someone younger has a shinier approach. They become more valuable because you understand not just how things work, but why they work and what happens when they don't. If you're facing workplace politics that discount your expertise, remember this: competence has a way of proving itself when the stakes are high enough. Sometimes patience and preparation matter more than politics and presentations. Your turn to prove them wrong might be closer than you think.
Don't pity me. My heart doesn't need your mercy. I can still stand on my own. I was broken by your leaving, fell deeper than I thought I would. But pain has taught me how to heal now and survive what once I couldn't. You don't have to look back sadly Don't reach out with guilty hands. What you shattered made me stronger. Now I rise where I once collapsed. My heart doesn't need your pity, not another empty sign. I've got enough strength left within me to rebuild this life of mine. My feet are steady through the sorrow. I can stand through all the pain. You don't have to save me, darling. I'll learn to breathe again. I once begged for your affection. Now I've learned my worth in scars. And the man you left in pieces found his own way through the dark. My heart doesn't need your pity, not another empty sign. I've got enough strength left within me to rebuild this life of mine. My feet are steady through the sorrow. I can stand through all the pain. You don't have to save me, darling. I'll learn to breathe again. My heart doesn't need your pity, not another empty sign. I've got enough strength left within me to rebuild this life of mine. My feet are steady through the sorrow. I can stand through all the pain. You don't have to save me, darling. I'll rise alone again. I'll rise alone again. I'm freezing. I'm bleeding, slowly fading away. But don't worry, I'm fine. The cold has settled in my heartbeat, like winter living in my veins. Every breath feels numb and fragile. Every smile just hides the pain. I'm breaking quietly in silence, falling slow without a sound. Yet I keep saying I'm okay, while my world burns to the ground. I'm frozen here, I'm bleeding slowly, dying piece by piece inside. But I still whisper, it's alright, just to keep you from goodbye. I'm shattered, love, but don't you worry. I'll pretend till my last breath, even while my soul is fading. I'll say everything's okay. Maybe pain just learned to live here. Maybe sorrow feels like home. So I wear my wounds like armor and survive them all alone. I'm frozen here, I'm bleeding slowly, dying piece by piece inside. But I still whisper, it's alright, just to keep you from goodbye. I'm shattered, love, but don't you worry. I'll pretend till my last breath, even while my soul is fading. I'll say everything's okay. If you ever see me smiling, No, it's just my last defense, 'cause sometimes love means hiding how much you're suffering. No, I'm frozen here, I'm bleeding slowly, dying piece by piece inside. But I still whisper, it's alright, just to keep you from goodbye. I'm shattered, love, but don't you worry, I'll pretend till my last breath. Even while my soul is fading, I'll say everything's okay. It's okay.